This is a SIG-sauer Romeo 7. This is a Sightmark Ultra Shot M-Spec. And I'm going to stick both of these in a bucket of water to see if they're actually waterproof. This SIG-sauer Romeo 7 is rated IPX7 according to SIG. IP stands for Ingress Protection, and the way the IP system works, it has two digits. The first one is the dust or particulate resistance, and the second digit is the water resistance. So the SIG Romeo 7 is rated IPX7, so I believe that there is no specific rating for dust protection, but the waterproof protection is something like total immersion up to a meter, something like that. I'll have to look it up. I'll put the numbers on screen. The Sightmark M-Spec is rated IP68, so the 6 means I believe that it's totally impervious to dust, and the 8 means that it conforms to a manufacturer specified level of water resistance. So Sightmark claims that it's like up to 40 feet or something like that. Anyway, both of these should withstand being dunked in water for half an hour, which is pretty much all of the time that I have the patience for. So they are both on right now. There we go. We're going to be dunking them in this trusty 5-gallon Fred Meyer bucket. The water is a pleasant blue, kind of like the water in a commercial about feminine hygiene products or burley paper towels. That's because I use this to dye camouflage a lot, and I guess there's still some dye in the water. Awesome. Well, here we go. SIG Romeo 7. Sightmark Ultra Shot. They are now both in the water. SIG Romeo 7. Ooh, man, that lensing effect, that's cool. Significantly less bloom on the Romeo 7 underwater than the Sightmark. They're both hanging out in there. We'll come back in a half an hour or whenever I remember to check on this again. Alright, that was supposed to be half an hour, and it ended up being about an hour because I got distracted by doing some other stuff. Focus. Focus. There you go. A little bit of lensing from water that's on the emitter because the emitter's right on the back. Okay, now you're not going to focus. There you go. So there's the emitter at the back of the housing, so it's pretty prone to getting water in it, which is probably why it magnifies so much when it is underwater. Whereas the Romeo 7, the emitter itself is protected inside the tube, so no water actually touches the emitter. Alright, I'm going to go use compressed air to blow these off just in case there's some steel components that might rust. Alright, so I blew some of the water out of this. I'll try to get more of it later. The only real concern with exposure to water, you know, if the optic doesn't leak, that is steel components on the clamp mount, for example. So this is the Romeo 7, this is the low mount. Some of these pieces here, the hardware is actually steel, so it could rust. Of course, the body of the optic is aluminum and plastic. This is a magnesium body with an aluminum shroud and plenty of plastic, I'm sure. So steel on the bottom could rust. Springs as well. I've got an Aimpoint Pro in a QD Midwest mount that has some springs in it, and the springs have rusted from rain exposure. Other than that, that thing's pretty much bomb-proof. I suspect same thing for this optic here. So the big risks are water getting into the tube housing somehow, which would be very difficult to get out, and it would cause fogging. You could also potentially get water underneath the caps. You could get water underneath the battery cap. This is all sealed with gaskets, so it should be totally fine. What's interesting about the Sightmark is that it's an open emitter optic, so really water can't get between the panes of glass and cause fogging, but water can get onto the emitter. So it could cause damage to the emitter, potentially. The bigger concern would be in the short term, if you've got water on your emitter, it's going to fuck with your dot pretty badly. As far as other points of ingress, there is a gasket on the battery cap that should keep moisture out of there pretty easily. My biggest concern would be with these surface mounted buttons, because that seems like the place where water would get in around. So it seems like these optics can withstand pretty minor levels of immersion and not really be overly affected by it. Which of these optics should you buy? Obviously, it's the SIG Romeo 7, but the true answer is you shouldn't buy either of these things. And special thank you to Fred Meyer. They didn't sponsor this video, but boy, they sure make a nice bucket. All right, see you later.